So here in InDesign, I'm going to make the changes that were suggested. So first of all, I'm actually going to move this comp, which has been sent to my library just here, out to the magazine production library. So I'm just going to right click here and say move this to Montan magazine. And so now that is in that particular library. Then I'm going to make some edits to it, and to do that I'll need to switch out to Photoshop. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to take this piece of text with me. So I'll pop out to Photoshop like so, and then I'm going to go to my libraries here and open my Montan magazine library, and then double click this file to open this up. So here is the mix that I made inside of Photoshop Mix earlier on. I'm going to paste down this piece of text in just a second, but before I do that, I'm going to select both of these layers here, and I want to wrap them into one smart object. So now that I've got that, I can then work on those independently. I'll then just paste down my text, so that comes in like so. I can bring that into the right position just there, and I can also apply my layer style to it. So now it's got that nice soft outer glow there, just separating it from the background. So I'm going to go into the smart object first of all and make a couple of different changes here. You can see it's showing me all of the content just there, which is great. And I'm just going to come up to here. The first thing I'm going to do is do some refinement on this mask, because there's lots of little blue bits in there. So I'm going to go to the properties panel and click Mask Edge, which launches the Refine Mask dialog. And so I'll tap J so that I can see the radius that I'm giving Photoshop to work in. Then tap J again, and already that's done a pretty good job of refining that. Just going to use my refinement brush across here just to show their areas of transition. That's pretty good. And I'll just pan around a little bit and have a look in here. Actually, everything else there looks just fine. So I'll hit OK. Now I'm going to pop back out to the parent document. So if I just close this and save it, then my changes are updated here. I'm going to use the Camera Raw filter on this layer. So I'll go to the filter menu, choose Camera Raw filter. Now I can start to make some adjustments here. So I'm just going to darken up the sky a little bit here. Just going to bring that in like so. I'm going to reset the local correction settings for this adjustment. And I just want to darken this down just a bit. I'm going to make it even warmer, just put a bit more magenta in it and a shade more yellow. Actually, I think the blue kind of counters that off nicely. I'm going to add a little bit of local clarity there, just to actually negative clarity, just to bring that down just a shade. And down at the bottom here, I'm going to add another gradated adjustment. So it's between the green and red where the transition occurs from between everything before the green and everything after. So this is full on, this is not happening at all, and this is the transition between them. In fact, if I drop down the exposure, you can see how that happens. There you go at the midpoint, that's going. That, of course, would be way overkill just there. So I'm just going to drop that down just a little bit, and also just increase the blacks there by decreasing their values there in the shadows. That's good. I want to create a little bit more of a focal area here, and to do that I'm going to use this radial adjustment. So I'll just draw one here like this, and again I'm going to reset the correction settings just there. Now I can start to dial in what I want. So I want this to be really warm. So I'm just going to add some yellow there and some magenta, and I'm going to increase the exposure just to brighten that up a bit like so. Bring a bit more out of the highlights, drop down the shadows, and in fact make that a shade more contrasty, and so on. Just drop down those blacks in that region as well. That's really good. And actually this time I will add a bit of positive clarity, also a little bit of dehaze there. That's going to really strengthen that up. Now, if I zoom in just here, you can see that this is also working on the sky. So I'm going to turn on the mask here, and you can see where the effect is being applied. So on the right hand side, I'm going to choose brush and remove. And then what I can do is I can actually come in and paint this out where I don't want it. So that's pretty much what I'm doing just now, just running around the top there just to clean most of that off and all the transition area. In fact, I'm going to give myself a larger brush to do that and hold down shift and the right bracket key there to change the softness of the brush. I don't want it to be too hard or else I'll start to see the transition area. So just into that region there. If I make a mistake, I can just swap over into add mode and just bring that back in like that. So very, very easy. I kind of like the way that is applying just there, and I like that softness. Let's turn the mask off and have a look at that. I think that's working pretty well. So now that that's applied, I'm going to go back to InDesign. So if I save this and close it and return to InDesign, then I can update the file just here. So I'll go to the link and refresh the link. There we go. I've got my competing text boxes there, so I'm just going to remove that, and I can see that I've got some modeling to do with the text. So I'm back here in Photoshop, and I'm just going to open up the Montan magazine library and then double click on this file here to make the changes that I want to make. So here's my vector smart object for that text, and I can just reduce this down. Okay, like so. That should be pretty much it. So bring that over just a little bit more just there. It's kind of around my focal area. Excellent. And then I'll save that. And from here, I'll just pop back into InDesign, which is now showing an out-of-date link. So there, if I collect that and wind that on. That's about the right size, the wrong place, so I'm just going to match up where they are. Swap back out to Photoshop again. Of course, if I was using native type in InDesign, that would have been easier, but then again, I wouldn't have been able to show you the fab fact that I can bring in different layer styles in Photoshop. So I'll save that now and pop back out to InDesign, and once more update that link, and that's perfect. That's exactly where I need it to be and exactly the way I want it to look. So I'll save that. And what I'll do now is I would go back and notify my colleague that the adjustments have been made. So now they'll be able to have a new view of the file, and what they could do is pass their comments from there. So I'm going to say, that's great. You can license the LCAP image now. And then just add that comment like so. And once again, I'd be notified about that with my Creative Cloud notifications at the top there. So now I'll pop back into Photoshop, and I'm going to go to the Montan magazine library, and then you'll see that if I hover over the El Capitan rock image in the library, in fact, if I focus on it just there, you'll see it's unlicensed and it's a stock image. If I now right click that and buy the image, then it will decrement my available images by 1, and it will seamlessly replace the content without me having to do the work all over again. So if I click OK, it now does that and downloads the full resolution asset, which it's now done. Now, this is nested inside of another smart object. It hasn't caught up with everything just at the moment. I could relink it to the original library graphic, but it's just as easy for me to go into the smart object, right click here and choose Update Modified Content. It will then replace it with the full res. So if I close that and save it, you'll see this version is now updated, and I can save that. If I pop back into InDesign now, then I can just update that version just there. And there we go, that's ready to go.